Good afternoon, all, and welcome once again to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. It was good for some, not good for some others. But, you know, a holiday is always a holiday. It was a lot of football. There's a lot of stuff going on. Also, shout out to everyone in the chat right now. Fox, 1804 Banks. Terry Murnane, who's always here. Hassan Mo, the chatterbox, as he's best known. I still have your espresso right here, by the way, Hassan. So thank you all for being here. There's a lot to get to. If we can, please, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, where we're closing in on 60,000 subscribers on the Finest Unfiltered channel, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button as well. If you're watching us on Rumble, please hit the Rumble button, hit the like button. And if you're watching us live right now, streaming all over the world on X, please hit that like button and share this out to all your friends, especially those in the low information bubble. There it is, folks. You're closing in on 60,000. I was just talking the other day, right? We only had 55,000 or 50,000. Look how quick that's going. So there's a lot of people subscribing and watching, but we need to get those views up. We need to get the likes up. Because, you know, I look at things and 60,000 subscribers, how does a video only have 1,000 views? Where I see some other people that have like no following have 1 million views. Something's going on there. I wonder, I always question things and say, that doesn't sound right. So with that being said, there was a lot that happened. There was a few things that occurred. And before I have my guests come on, I was going to discuss these things. Circling around the New York City Police Department. You know, first of all, there was an incident that we learned about there was a synagogue. There was a whole thing that happened with that. So there's an investigation going on. So internal affairs, as you know, Group One, which is infamous because they kicked the can down the road for, John McCarr and Eric Dim's complaint. And they were on top of that complaint they made, which they weren't. And then they transferred out people that were all corrupt and then brought them back to different groups. So Group One is conducting an investigation over what happened there. Because Eric Adams all of a sudden is upset, which shows you that the original, we'll call it today, the original soccer mom of New York City, Jessica Tisch, she has no idea how to run the police department. She's great at PR. You know, she went to Harvard. She might know, to recite some laws. As far as running the police department, she has no idea what's going on. I mean, we have that incident at the synagogue, which now, and this is like something else that occurred over the weekend, but the synagogue incident, they're investigating Internal Affairs Group One, Chief Stevenson and Pagan, okay? These are two figures that should have been terminated a long time ago because they were part of the party administration under the esteemed former police commissioner, Ed Caban, and very chummy friends with the one and only mob associate, Jimmy Rodriguez, and were partying at Con Sofrito together. So that synagogue incident, I mean, I think these are some of the pictures from there. The synagogue incident is now being pushed off on the commanding officer of the 19th precinct. As we told you numerous times on this show and in this network, they always find a scapegoat. So they're trying to push it off as if the CO there was not supposed to be off. And because they were off, it's all on them. Let me explain one thing in the police department. There's always operational status, right? So in operations, when you have a major event, there's a whole cast of characters that are there. First of all, the commanding officer doesn't really need to be on the ground. That's why you have lieutenants and captains, and there's multiple details going on. So in order, before we go and start slamming the commanding officer of the 19th precinct, there's people back at One Police Plaza calling the shots. Michael Petrie. As the chief of department, chief of patrol, there's all different casts of characters there. So that incident with a putrid response, once again, falls on the police commissioner, her underlings. Before you get to the commanding officers, like a whole bunch of things. There's a whole operational staff that occurs with each event that occurs. So before we go and we're going to investigate, and this is all a political witch hunt, just so you know, the internal affairs is all, as Eric Dimbes coined, selective affairs is now going to try to blame the commanding officer of the 19th precinct for the incident that happened at the synagogue because they were off apparently. What I could tell you, the commanding officer doesn't have to be on the ground for any of these incidents or events because there's a whole staff there and there's other people that are in charge and have more command presence or presence out on the street that could go back and tell whoever's really in charge, either the borough chief or the chief of department or whoever's running this event, what's going on. Basically, the commanding officer has a say, but doesn't have the full say during an event. Okay, just so you know. So before we go, and internal affairs is going to turn this into a witch hunt because the community's all upset, or Eric Adams or Jessica Tisch, they're just looking for a scapegoat because, as you know, they need the cover for the crime is down material that they keep pushing out there that clearly isn't. But then we have the fiasco that occurred with ICE, the police department, and people that were getting arrested. This is just some of the videos that occurred there. Before we go and blame these officers, which, by the way, should not be blamed, this is a catastrophe from the very top. The top. That means operations, en route. Shout out to 92 Charlie for even mentioning that because you're right. Patrol Bureau. These are the people that are in charge of things like this. What was disgusting is that you hear that the head of the New York FBI and the New York Homeland Security called the soccer mom to apologize to her for what? That ICE is doing their job and that things could just happen. You have rioters and protesters just running around and creating chaos. And by the way, in all these videos, the protagonists are the same 10 or 12 people, just as John McCarr and Eric Dim discussed yesterday with Marlon Bethel. So the same 12 or 13 people are antagonizing groups of people in order to, throw a trash can, assault a police officer, try to assault a federal agent. This is the same people over and over again. I thought we would go after the people that run these groups that do that. But instead, they're blaming ICE. That was what Tisch had said. By the way, the soccer mom who the president of the United States said in front of a bunch of cameras with Zohran Mamdani, his new friend, that the soccer mom's good friends with his daughter Ivanka. So that is, she's untouchable apparently. Crime is down, even though, they say burglaries are down, but criminal trespass is up. I wonder how that could be. So you see this? You cannot blame look, they're untrained on how to do this. It's untrained how to do this, by the way. They're training for this. There is none. I don't know if they're going off training from a long time ago. They clearly, look at this. Nobody knows what to do. That's not on the cops. Who's training them? Oh, that's right. Who puts out the curriculum? Chief of training, Chief Martin Matarazzo. She's too busy partying at Sobro Gardens with Jimmy Rodriguez, that mob associate, to know what the hell, how to train these cops or what curriculum to put out there. I mean, this is what you have going on. And what and then you're going to blame ICE for doing their job? They go out, by the way, there's no communications. And by the way, there's leaks coming from the police commissioner's office, the soccer mom's office, that is now going out. So there's leaks involving when ICE is going to conduct their raids, which is supposed to be hush, hush. They're not asking for the police department to help them. They're a law enforcement agent conducting law enforcement business. So whatever they're doing, you don't even really assist as a police officer. What you do is you hang back and are trying to prevent what happened, which is these rioters, protests, whatever you want to call it, organized protesters, go out there and try to assault people and break property and destroy vehicles and do what they always do. Every now and then, they all, for a couple of weeks, they do this and they go away. This is what they're doing. And again, these officers, you can't blame them. You're going to blame a cop or a sergeant that told to stand down? Who's telling them to stand down, by the way? Who's giving that order? Soccer mom? Is it the soccer mom? Is it Chief LePetri, who knows better? Who's running the show there? Again, in a large-scale event like that just pops up, there's somebody always in charge, not the commanding officer of the precinct. It comes from one police plaza. It's always been like this. I could tell you, I remember during the riots of 2020, it was always like that. And in fact, over the radio, you would hear, we had a radio, all the officers do, you hear the borough chief come over, say, stand down, don't go there, just be on the corner. There's hundreds of you there, and just stand there and, I don't know, look pretty while all this is going on. And who gave that order? And it's funny because over the weekend, who else did we see with the soccer mom? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. The original commie mayor, Bill de Blasio. There he is. What are they discussing? Did I not tell you that all you were getting with Mamdani was Bill de Blasio on steroids? So much for that Sharia law and all that stuff that was going on, right? Because you're seeing who is being staffed and how they're doing it. And, it was a 3-card Mamdani, but a lot of you still voted that way and you fell for it. Cuomo was your big savior. He was the first part of the 3-card Mamdani. He created it. Then you have Eric Adams, who's too busy partying and accepting awards and looking for money. Him and Frank Carone doing all kinds of side deals with one of the Banks brothers over there in Florida. And again, crime is down. We all need to praise Eric Adams. It's because of him, even though he's been in Israel, he's been in Uzbekistan. Now he was in New Orleans? Well, all this chaos goes on. And the soccer mom is sitting there having meetings with Bill de Blasio telling you crime is down. Burglaries are down because criminal trespass is up. I wonder how that is. Robberies are down, but lost properties are up. I wonder how that is. So you're just being, having a wool pull over your eyes. And, the soccer mom, we should give her one big round of applause. I mean, the media just doesn't stop for her. It's like her PR campaign. She has a whole media campaign on how great New York City is, the NYPD, and that crime is down. Yet your eyes cannot mistake you. That scene was harrowing. But before we blame the police officers, just know that you can only do what you're told from the very top. And, of course, when something goes wrong, because there's going to be CCRB complaints, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to arise out of this. It's the lowest person on the totem pole, that poor police officer that has to go down there, and he's going to end up losing vacation days or possibly his job. Meanwhile, that chief that's hiding under his desk that's saying, stand down because, the soccer mom's standing over there saying, we can't do this because my political career could be over. At least that's what we think it's going on there, right? What happens? Nothing happens to them. It's all on that poor cop. That's why I tell people out there in New York City, some of you don't like police. Some of you have a bad thing to say about them, but you should actually go and hug that poor cop on the corner because this is the kind of stuff they have to deal with. They're trying to protect all of you and themselves, and they're going to end up in the crosshairs of this political BS because they need a political football to toss around. And this is it. ICE is bad. ICE is not good. Remember that Trump met with Mamdani, just so you understand. Don't lose track of all of that. Oh, by the way, did I notice that a certain casino got approved? The one that's going to be in the Bronx, Bally's? Oh, yeah. So when Eric Adams got let off his charges, he then vetoed what would have been the veto to not have that casino in the Bronx that has no infrastructure for people to go there, right? So this casino in Bally's Casino, which is one of the Ferry Links, the former Trump property, that deal involves Trump getting $115 million, which is the Trump organization, just so you know. So that little getting Eric Adams off the hook meant, oh, yeah, I'm going to get my casino. He wanted the name on the woman rink. He may or may not get that. Depends. Mamdani could pass that too. Now he's the mayor. But Bally's got a license awarded, and the company must pay a reporter $150 million to the Trump organization. Well done. Pay for play. Well done. If you want to know why Eric Adams got his charges dismissed. There is 115 million reasons why. And you'll now learn that nobody really cares about any victims or anything that happened. It's all politics, folks. If it's political, I'm sorry, you might end up in the crosshairs, and too bad. Tag, you're it. So moving right along, of course, if you want to shop with people that are pro law enforcement and not for this nonsense and help all kinds of police departments around the United States, you go to myfreedomcart.com/Sal Greco Show. Support patriotic businesses that support law enforcement and won't stand for things like what we just saw the other day, which is atrocious. So myfreedomcart.com/the Sal Greco Show. And now a word from our other sponsor, which is Free Spoke, which again, use this app if you want to get all your news and you get all kinds of updates unbiased. So let's show you the ad. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on the search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. There you have it, folks. And use the promo code Greco35 to get 35% off your subscription in Free Spoke, which if you use it, you'll see that you could actually turn the settings to either left-leaning, right-leaning, or non-biased, which is where I leave it. And you'll get all kinds of updates, anything that comes up, and it's not biased. I'm sure if you go on any major search engine right now, you'll see a lot of biased reporting on things. So once again, Free Spoke, use the promo code Greco35 and get 35% off that subscription, which you could also use AI to do, like Chat GPT. They have that feature. They're also on Free Spoke. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on probably the most favorite person I have on the Sal Greco Show. She's always requested to come on, and that's none other than our favorite attorney on the Sal Greco Show, Sarena Townsend.
That is so nice.
It's 100% true. I can't, a lot of people constantly want to see you on here. They love your take on things, and also some of the people you're representing, some of those cases, which we'll get into. But first off, how have you been? How was your Thanksgiving? It's been a while that we haven't seen you on here.
Thank you, Sal. It has been busy. It's true. I've wanted to come back way sooner than now, but it's been busy in a good way. So thank you for asking. Thanksgiving was great. My daughter's birthday was yesterday, so we celebrated that a little bit. And I hope that you and your family had a nice Thanksgiving too.
Yeah, what everything, being aside of everything that's been going on personally with, still fighting the city and all of that, it's just, it's a daily struggle, when you're blackballed and they don't like you and you're deemed something you're not. And then you have idiots online that come after you, one of them being a former chief of department. We'll get to him at a later date, that idiot. But it's funny you mentioned yesterday, because yesterday was something that you have been all over. One of the first people covering this was Luigi Mangione's, I believe it was his first, this is the first hearing involving is this the state case or the federal case?
It's the state case. Yeah, it's the first day of the suppression hearing.
So this is a suppression hearing, and there was all kinds of stuff that went on. So why don't you try to give us the latest with all of that? Because this is also something I've been following, and of course the Sal Greco Show in as a whole. And I still feel like you can say what you want about the guy, the police department, the mayor, they all chimed in on this and they tainted this case. I still stand by that.
Yeah. Yeah, there really should not be commentary, especially by powerful people, before any evidence is coming forward and any verdict is given, for sure. So yeah, actually, we're in the middle of day 2 of the suppression hearing. So unlike most cases, his hearing is multiple days long. I mean, I know cases that I've done, right, Sal, cases that you've probably testified in. The hearing is a day,
Yeah.
right? It's usually a
One
day.
day.
Yeah, and the judge gives a decision same day. In this case, they said that they were ready for a 5-day hearing. I don't think that the judge is going to issue his decision right away for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a lengthy amount of time and testimony and evidence to consider. Number two is because even some of the evidence that they produced in court yesterday, the judge was like, I'm not going to have the entire video played right now. I'm going to watch it on my own time. So there's definitely still stuff that the judge is going to have to consider even after they rest in this case. So that's going to take some time. And of course, also, it's such a high profile case that I think this judge does not want to just rule, just right away. He wants to kind of think about it and probably write something rather than just kind of go off the top of his head. So, but yeah, yesterday we did see some testimony coming out of Altoona. We brought Altoona to New York, right?
Altoona, I remember that. The Altoona police, which then I believe Kaz Daughtry tried to take credit for. That's now the deputy mayor of public safety. And then if anyone remembers what occurred after that was the big 30-man walk off the helicopter. It was such a waste of money and resources. And there's Eric Adams on his one and only perp walk in his entire career from when he was a cop till the mayor. I remember that all too well. That's after the Altoona incident, which the NYPD took credit for.
Who was the bigger perp on that perp walk, Luigi Mangione or Eric Adams?
They say Luigi might have murdered this person. We really don't know yet about that. But I could tell you, Eric Adams has murdered many careers, politically assassinated people, and destroyed other careers in the police department. So if you go by body count alone, if we consider political assassinations, we're saying in the terms of not physically, but just rhetorically, Eric Adams has a ton of those under his belt. And all the people, by the way, he worked underneath him, whose careers are now destroyed, lives are destroyed. He has quite a body count, Eric Adams.
Are you saying he's a recidivist?
Yeah, beyond a recidivist. Should be in jail too, but of course there's 115 million reasons why he's not.
Yes, indeed. So right, Luigi, we actually learned some stuff yesterday that we didn't know before. Like they played the 911 call from the McDonald's manager, which nobody has heard before. And very interesting because we kind of found out that the manager was not the one to kind of make that call on their own. They were apparently approached by like patrons at the McDonald's, and they were like, we think this is the guy. And apparently they thought so because of the eyebrows, like the eyebrows like did him in, I guess, in that moment, because that's the only thing that was showing with the mask and the hoodie or the beanie. And so they approached the manager who made that call. So we learned that, which was interesting. We also heard, this was interesting to me, Sal, we heard from a correction officer at the jail that Luigi was at, who said that Luigi made certain statements of admissions to him, specifically like with respect to the gun that was recovered. And that's an interesting thing because that was kind of a missing piece between like how they were going to claim that it was his. I mean, of course, the backpack was there and they're going to say it was his backpack.
Yeah.
But everybody wants a tight link in this case with respect to proof. And so how are they going to prove that this gun actually belonged to him? And so they're relying, it seems, on certain admissions that he made to the CO. They were trying to kind of say that those admissions were made spontaneously. As you know, Sal, and as many of our viewers know, especially if they're in law enforcement, that, Custodial interrogation is not okay if you didn't read him his Miranda rights and he didn't waive. But if you make a spontaneous statement and you weren't questioned by law enforcement, then that typically does go into evidence. But it's interesting, right? Because we're so obsessed with like the cops who were there and the cops that were in Altoona and everybody else, but like nobody thought of the correction officers. And apparently he may have made a statement, a damning statement to one of the correction officers.
So that's how they're gonna hang their hat on a spontaneous statement. And I guess this was it. It says Altoona police officer Joseph Detwiller said, I did not think it was going to be the person that they thought it was, opening the second day of a hearing of Mangione's attorneys requested over whether some key evidence should be barred from his New York murder case. But
Sal, I feel like you could totally opine on that, because how many bad tips do cops get, right? Like,
oh yeah, everyone, yeah. You have everyone. I can understand anything too with the spontaneous statement thing. Now, there'd be times, of course. I'll give you an example. I arrest someone. He's DWI. I got to drive him now to the 78th precinct, the 7th precinct, wherever it is. I got to do that IDTU test, right?
Yeah.
And they're in the back. Nobody's saying anything to them. Now, sometimes back in recent times it was a body camera. Before that, you didn't have a body camera. But then they'll start talking on their own. Nobody's talking to them. They're screaming about whatever. And then that's where you get hung up. The guy is drunk, but he's talking about, I had this, I did that. Why are you doing this? And all of this stuff can be used against you. Nobody is saying, hey, pal, you have the right to remain silent. It's just, you're not talking. You're just driving.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on. So that spontaneous statement thing will probably hurt you. I just don't know to what degree, especially since this happened in Altoona and he's being brought to New York. So I don't know how that's going to go with that. I was always wondering, because you mentioned the eyebrow thing, there was a part when the esteemed soccer mom of New York City, the first one anyway, the main one, the police commissioner of New York City, Jessica Tisch, said that she was watching the photos or the videos of this and recognized his chiseled look and the eyebrows. So that statement would be used against the city or the government, because the head of the police department is mentioning how his eyebrows, how chiseled he looks. And I don't know why the police commissioner even discussed this case.
Truly agree.
That could come up in a suppression hearing.
I mean, it's really inappropriate, worse than inappropriate. That's like not even the right word for it. Prejudicial is really the right word for it. You can't be making those kinds of statements. It's bad enough to say, wow, we caught the guy. Like, you can't even say that, because now you're implying that you did it correctly and that this is the person who committed the crime, and that's for a jury to decide. But it's even worse to also say, like, I recognized him too. Like, this is definitely the guy because he's just as handsome and his eyebrows look the same. You can't be opining, especially if you are the police commissioner of the city that is prosecuting him. That's completely inappropriate. And what a misstep by an attorney.
Yeah. And she's from Harvard of all places. But maybe she's hanging around Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner too much. Who knows? Or Bill de Blasio lately. And Special Hagen, who's, again, a friend of the show, she's also an attorney. She said they had no idea that Mangione came from money. Their sloppy work and behavior would be of no importance if he were poor. His defense team is making this competitive. Anyone else would be under the jail or probably buried somewhere underneath the prison.
Yeah. I love this comment. I literally love this comment because I actually, I'm not going to talk much about this case because it's still open and pending, but I have a client who hired me who said the same thing, that he's been falsely accused. And he was like, my accuser never thought that I was going to have money to retain an attorney and to get bailed out. And they thought this was just going to be a bulldoze situation where I was going to go down without a fight. And now we're fighting. I'd love to talk more about this case, Sal, when it's all done. But that comment is so spot on. It's so spot on because honestly, It is really sad. And this is not a knock to public defenders, by the way. I have appreciation for public defenders. I think that they're unfortunately underpaid and overworked. But the bottom line is you should have the right to choose your attorney. When you have a public defender, even if they're a good public defender, it may not be the perfect match for you. It's very important that you pick an advocate who you feel can advocate in your voice for you. And so when you have the money to retain somebody, you get that. I mean, it's such an unbelievable advantage. And Luigi picking Karen Agnifilo, Mark Agnifilo, they are very well-known, very good attorneys. And he and his family clearly thought that this was the right mouthpiece for him. And he's very lucky for that. Yes.
So this suppression hearing, I mean, it's just going on day 2 is probably now, how long would you say this usually takes? What do you see happening here? And what's the next step to this? Obviously, the state prosecution is going to be a federal one, apparently, too. So I don't know how these two, I guess they crisscross into each other. So whatever happens here is going to affect the big case coming down the road, which is the federal one. So what do you see happening here with this suppression hearing?
Totally agree. Day 2 has been interesting also. We're learning a little bit more now about, as you know, these hearings have to do with suppressing property, statements, and identification. All 3 are involved in Luigi's case. So yesterday we got some testimony that was going to affect his identification, right? The call by the manager, some identification in the surveillance video that showed the shooting. Today, we're learning a little bit more about his statements. Yesterday, too, the statement about the gun, but also about the recovery of the backpack and its contents, including the gun. So that was information that was interesting and newly learned because there was testimony today about how the police frisked him and what they found. I think they found a jar of peanut butter in his pants. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting that. Like, I was just like, wait, what? There's peanut butter. I don't even know what's happening there. Like, that was a recent thing that I saw on X. So I have to get back to that and figure it out. But, you know, the police were saying that they stood in between him and the backpack and actually moved the backpack away from him because they thought that there might be a gun in there. And so there are ways to argue, you know, Sal, exigent circumstances, stuff like that, where it could be that those pieces of property do come into evidence too. That being said, how do I see this playing out? I think that some of his statements might end up being suppressed because I do think some of his statements that were made at the McDonald's were taken unconstitutionally. He was definitely not free to leave. So even if he wasn't arrested, he was still in custody. And I do think some of the Altoona cops, who may not, you know, be as well trained as our NYPD veterans here, may have asked him some things that they shouldn't have asked him. But we'll see. We don't know yet. So basically, all of this evidence is going to be in front of this judge. The judge is going to make a decision on what comes in, what stays out, meaning what gets suppressed, what's going to come in. And Sal, you're absolutely right. Whatever is said during these hearings can be used in the federal case too, right? So like all these officers or whatever who need to testify in both forums, the minutes that are taken by the stenographer in this case are absolutely able to be used in the other case too, if somebody makes an inconsistent statement down the road. So it could very well have a huge impact on the federal case. I do think most of the evidence will come in when all is said and done. Think about it also, you know, you do have a judge that is going to be motivated to let things in, right? It's a murder case. Yeah. So you have to deal with that. There's always going to be a little bit of prejudice there. And so that's what I think is going to happen. But it's going to be very interesting because we are learning things every day about this case that we didn't know before.
Yeah, they were trying to hide, other than, you know, when it first happened, Eric Adams saved the world by bringing this guy in off. He could have been driven in with 2 cops. But, hey, you know, let's put the theatrics out there, paying people for that whole scene that he did. And I'm really interested when they bring that part up. I want to hear what they're going to say about the evidence of all those prejudicial statements they made against Luigi Mangione to turn the entire city of New York against them. And they were grandstanding, which I've never seen this before. The mayor's out there on HBO with the chief of detectives. What are you guys doing? The police commissioner, stay out of it. It's not your fight. They made it like, look at us, because this was at a time when Eric was under fire. This guy was desperate to try to get reelected, and this wasn't going to work because he's a criminal himself. Like I said, he's politically destroyed numerous lives. So,
Yeah. Sal, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I have I have a source who is always in my ear with very important and believable and intelligent things, and I want to run something by you. Have you heard that peanut butter throws off dogs during a search? Have you heard that?
There might have been a rumor about that. I don't know if it's an actual fact. I did see somebody.
I'm going to look that up now.
So somebody did say something about peanut butter, but it might have been made in because dogs eat peanut butter too. So I don't know. You might give them a little spoon; they like it. So I don't know if that throws off the scent, but that. I don't know. That would be ridiculous.
It's an interesting theory, right?
That's an interesting theory. I still think that this case is going to be a lot to still come, but it's a lot of people are emotionally invested in this. Whether you like this guy or you don't, or you want to stand on the rule of law, which there's things that could be questionably how they were done, either be bringing him in, the statements that were given, and the way the police department itself. Then you also have the Attorney General of the United States saying, "I'm going to do that." Why are you so emotionally invested in these things?
It's so inappropriate.
Yeah, it's inappropriate, and this is, that's what I'm saying with things like this. Just for let's say Special Agent says the way they brought Mangione in, you would have thought he was the worst terrorist in the country's history. Meanwhile, he gets caught with a Happy Meal in McDonald's, shaking my damn head.
He just wanted some hash browns, give the guy a break. It was sad. He told the police when they asked him where he lived that he was homeless. I mean, there is a lot of sympathy there. And I just love this case because there's so many people who are interested now in learning the law and learning about our rights and learning about, what could happen to you if you are a suspect in a crime, what to do, what not to do. And everybody who is following this case is so interested not only in, his fate, but also in learning the reasons why certain evidence may or may not be suppressed. It's great. It's really good for, people to learn the law and learn what their rights are. So it's a good vehicle for that.
HFL 737 said peanut butter sounds like Training Day with Denzel. I guess that was part of the movie. If I remember, that was a good movie, by the way. But again, it's a movie. It's not reality. I gotta address this one guy in the comments. This guy, both these. He says, "Sal, what's all those awards behind you?" I see this seems to be a disgruntled cop out there, whatever. Or maybe they're part of the former disgraced chief of department. It's limping around lately, but he's doing all these interviews. See these things here? These awards you get. You don't just get them; they got to be given to you. Meaning, you earn them. You don't just draw it up. And the reason it's up there is this is some of the things that happened in my career. Because some of you out there are believing this whole narrative that the likes of the crippled former chief of department, disgraced chief of department would put out there that you're doing uncompensated security. He's part of the whole thing, which there'll be more on that in a little bit with him down the road, just so you know, and the police department. But let's say you want to know about these awards, right, Mr. Whatever his name is, Bo Deedle, whatever. This one, these are, an MPD, meritorious police duty. That was a gun arrest. These are excellent police duties. No, these are not 511 arrests. Back when I was doing this, 3 DWI arrests and convictions is one of these. 3 grand larceny auto arrests, that's one of these. I have a lot of those. 50,
and you should be proud of that work.
At least.
People are jealous.
Yeah, there's a ton of those. One of these, I believe, is some kind of attendance. When you go, I had perfect attendance for long, plenty of years. I don't know. It was a long time I did that. These are just some I just strung together and threw up here. Just because what do you want to put? You want a picture of a car? You want a dog eating of a peanut butter? I don't know. What do you want?
Sal,
What do you?
let your haters be your waiters at your table of success.
That's right. I'm going to give you what you believe in is with the Eric Adams. All my haters are my waiters at my table of success, which
that's right.
Plenty of his people don't even sit at the table. Now, speak of Eric Adams, though, right? And this is now this person that we're going to discuss here is the other soccer mom of New York City. And that's, I'm going to get her name right, Linnell McGinley Liddy.
You did it right.
Now, if you don't know who she is the Corrections Commissioner. Okay, she's the Commissioner of Corrections, which is a completely dysfunctionally misguided agency in New York City, almost neglected. These poor correction officers, there's no guidance there because the head of it is atrocious, which is this woman. And if people don't know, she came into power because Luis Molina, who was the Commissioner of Corrections at the time, he had to leave in a hurry because of things that you filed. So before we get, I don't know if you want to touch up a little bit about this before we get into the main topic with her and the way she's running corrections, which is atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Luis Molina because he's still at DCAS. So he hasn't. It's like, when you use Raid on like a roach and they just scatter and you're like, I can't just stomp this thing out. That's what has happened with Luis Molina. He scattered to City Hall where Eric Adams had to hide him quickly. And then nobody could stand him over there. And so they scattered him over to DCAS. So, yeah, I mean, look, Luis Molina, obviously his first mistake was firing me after I refused to dismiss thousands of cases that were legitimate cases. But he just kept going after that. And yes, it's true. I did expose all of his corruption. And so what ended up happening is there was a final nail in the coffin, so to speak, with Luis Molina. And that is when I was defending my former number 2, Ruben Benitez, who was reinstated, rightly so, at DOC as one of the heads of investigations there because he's the best. But it was because of this unconstitutional and unfair and illegal demotion of him that I exposed that caused Mayor Adams to say, you know what, pack yourself up and get out. Now, the problem was Eric Adams didn't have a replacement for him. It was only, little problem. It was because all of this was happening and he had no idea who to replace him with. And he also knew that if he kept replacing him with his own cronies, I was just going to keep exposing the corruption because I wasn't going to stop exposing corruption. I had nothing against Luis Molina per se. It's about corruption. So, Linnell McGinley Liddy was from the previous administration. She had been there previously. So she was not really an Eric Adams crony that just came in at, the time that he came in. And she wasn't really part of his inner circle. I mean, there were, connections there, but she wasn't part of that inner circle. And so I think he felt that if he put her in there, I would shut up. Listen, I'm going to say something just to give her some props here because it is, how I am, Sal. I try to be fair. I will say that there was a huge sigh of relief when she came in because even if she's not, I don't know that she's the perfect person for the role, but she's not corrupt. And getting Luis Molina, who was completely corrupt, out of that position was really the win. For everybody in the city, for people on Rikers, staff, detainees, and really anybody who dealt with the criminal justice system at all. Once that was done, Linnell going in there was kind of a breath of fresh air in that sense of the word. But Sal, as you say, things are still no good there. And you know how I feel. We need a receiver to head on in there and take control.
Yeah. And well, trying to get to now is that she's a lawyer, just like the soccer mom of the NYPD. So they're two lawyers, two females that have no clue about anything about their own agency. Like they just lost in how to handle things. Someone in here I just saw, 1804 Bank says that the correctional officers are now doing 12-hour tours again. Like this was stopping. And here's an article just from today or just the other day. New York City Correction Department tries 12-hour tours again as Rikers faces rising jail population. The population of Rikers has surged 32% since 2022, while officer staffing has dropped 25%, forcing longer shifts. I thought this was something that they had eliminated, but under this commissioner, McGinley Liddy there, she doesn't know what the hell she's doing because this is, she's never worn that uniform. She never worked in corrections, right? So how is she going to know what needs to be done, A, by her staff, B, by her officers, right? Her staff underneath the officers, and how to handle work in facilities like Rikers and other facilities. She doesn't know because she has no experience. You just put a female lawyer as, you know what to do, but she doesn't. That's the problem.
So much of being able to lead proficiently in a huge law enforcement agency is surrounding yourself with the right people as well. And I think that's kind of been an issue there. I mean, there were a couple people there who are decent, but overall, I don't think that she has the strongest team. And I think that that's a problem. And I don't think that she has the buy-in from the rank and file. And I think the 12-hour tour thing was a big change that she made, and the union is not happy with it. And they have obviously voiced their strong opinions about it. And you're dealing with a rising population, which you could blame Eric Adams on, right? Because he's all about that. And, there is a way. There's actually a way, Sal, to fix Rikers. Everybody says, oh, there's no way to fix it. You got to just close it and eliminate it. And I do think that there's a way. I think that certain things need to be rejiggered. I think that it's a very niche place. If you haven't worked there in any capacity, it's very difficult to understand the politics inside and the rules and what is important with respect to safety and security, and how you have to be able to balance the safety and security of the officers and the detainees with the reforms that you want to put in. A lot of people come in one way or another. They're like, safety and security only, and we don't care what happens to the detainees, and screw them, and solitary confinement for everybody, whatever. And then you have people who are totally closed-minded about that and only want reforms, and they want to just let everybody out, and they want to screw over the officers, and they want to just give them 12-hour tours and a million shifts where they get stuck and they don't know when they're coming home to their family, and they just and they're overly disciplined. And I can say that as the former disciplinarian, you cannot look at it in black and white that way. And there is a way to balance that in the middle. It's just that nobody's been willing to do it, because if you think about it, Sal, just like in almost every other aspect of lives, everybody wants to, how can I say this right? It's almost like if you're in the middle and you're rational, you don't get like severe attention and bolstering from any side. You're just a regular, normal person who wants what's right for everybody. But, if you're all the way on the right or all the way on the left, you get like a built-in party of people who are going to support you. So it's almost like people feel like they have to be radical on either end of the spectrum. But you don't. You can actually fix things if you meet in the middle on a lot of these issues.
What you would expect a commissioner to do. But now when you just don't know this culture, you're not from this culture, so they're just running circles around there, And Special Hagen has two different comments that it was great. By the way, 1804 Bank says Sarena should be the DOC commissioner. I think Sarena would not under Eric Adams, though. That would never happen. She will never. I don't think so. Yeah, Eric, that won't happen. But Special Agent said the problem with these folks is that they don't view the inmates as human beings that should be treated humanely. Liddy was just thrown in an impossible situation. She has no clue. That I agree with. Why? Because we're seeing this with Jessica Tisch. She has no clue. She might have worked in the NYPD brief. She doesn't know how to be a cop in the street, just like Liddy doesn't know how to be a corrections officer or anyone above a correction officer because she's never worked in the facility. She's a lawyer. This is why this is a bad idea having her. And she also goes on to say, Molina was a dirtbag. He was also disrespectful to the presiding judge, Taylor Swain, the judge who makes a decision whether the department would go into receivership. That's a
correct.
Fact.
That is a fact. He snubbed the very judge who was going to make the decision on his future and the future of DOC, which just goes to show you of the emotional intelligence that this man possesses.
Listen, he's another one. He's Auntie Miranda's, right-hand man. They, all hanging out together. It's really bad with these guys. And somehow, under Mayor-elect Mamdani right now, we don't hear anything about Commissioner for Corrections, and you don't hear anything about Molina hiding in DCAS or who will be the New York City Sheriff, which is where Anthony Miranda is, and he's got a load of issues over there. So, again, these are three people just lingering around. We don't hear anything about. But the reason I brought her up is there's a recent case that came in the news, and it's this sad case of Christopher Nieves, who was arrested and then brought to Central Booking, I believe, in Brooklyn, where he is the latest, but there was 5 individuals that died in the custody of the NYPD, but corrections and CHIS. But before, I saw some people saying, oh, CHIS. You have to understand, in Brooklyn, it's a joint, it's NYPD and corrections that jointly have to watch the prisoners until whatever the judge decides. They get remanded, they have to go here, or they have to, they let them out while they're in the custody, then they transfer over to corrections. So it technically is under corrections that this happened, but there's 5 fatalities in 1 week in the end of August, Sarena, other than the little bit that you just read about this once or twice with Christopher Nieves, unfortunately, was 1 of 5. But what do you say with all of that? 5 fatalities, no answers to that. Clearly, this woman, I don't know what she's doing. This should be a serious thing to say, hey, people are dying in my custody and my agency's custody, and there's nothing. They act like this never even happened, Sarena. It's like, oh, well, it's just another incident,
It's horrible. There's canned responses, basically, of extending our deepest sympathies to the family. I am representing one of the families of one of the 5 individuals who tragically passed at Rikers. I'm co-representing with co-counsel David Rankin from Beldock Levine, who's excellent. And I believe he is representing also the family of Christopher Nieves.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is great because you have to have good legal representation in those cases. Look, it's horrible. Anybody who knows the trends at Rikers knows that summer is the deadliest time of year at Rikers. Everybody knows and expects that there's going to be issues with corrections and deaths in the summer, and yet nobody fixes it. A lot of it has to do with, overheating and just everybody's energy is up in the worst way. Sometimes it's physical like that. Sometimes it's emotional. There's just no way to exactly tell how it's going to happen, but everybody knows that this is a dangerous time at Rikers. The fact that 5 people died in such a short period of time, I mean, there's no reason why that should have happened. There's no reason. Eric Adams is a big fan of saying they came to us disabled or unhealthy or whatever. Okay, but guess what didn't happen to them when they were left to their own devices? They didn't die, okay? Even people who, are suspected of committing suicide, they didn't do it when they were outside of Rikers, so you can't hold people as a city, not pre-arrest, but pre-conviction, right? Rikers, as your watchers hopefully know, is a jail. It's not a prison. That means that it's where people go while they're waiting for their verdict, while they're waiting for their day in court. They haven't been convicted yet. So it's bad enough in prisons when things like this happen, when somebody's have already been convicted and now, the state has to keep them safe during the time of their sentencing. But before you have even had the chance to plead your case, you're dying on Rikers Island. It's completely inexcusable. If
Yeah.
the city, right? It's just a very simple if then. If the city is mandating that you have to be in the city's control, then the city should have to keep you alive. It's as simple as that.
It's simple, right? It should be simple, but apparently in 1 week, 5 people died and they have no answers, nothing. And we've been already reciting their problems. They're understaffed. They have now they're back to 12-hour shifts. Okay. They're also disciplined. You know this because you were doing a discipline for corrections. Yep. The way they discipline people and they keep people modified. Modified means nobody's working. So who do you have? You have one guy trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're mandating people. That's why you have these issues in corrections. It's so, again, you have a soccer mom running corrections, which leads to this incident. Well, 5 of them, unfortunately, and it was scattered. That was in Rikers, one's in Brooklyn. And, I have a sergeant in here, I believe he, Rob 2326. I was a sergeant at Bronx Central Booking. What a nightmare. I know the people in Brooklyn, and remember, it's joint because it's a NYPD does the intake when you first get there. But at some point, there's a transfer to prisoner. Correct. And they go into corrections. And then this is what happens. If people go to hospital, who is watching them? Technically should be police. Sometimes it's corrections. It depends how that falls. But if they're remanded or not. But how does this happen all in a couple of days? And it's like, don't talk about this. This never happened, because then it would defeat their narrative of we have everything under control. Everything's great here.
That's part of the problem. If you see that in 1 week's time, 5 people died, why is there not a debrief? Why is there not an audit? Why is there not a sit down with everybody who's, getting paid a ton of money to be an executive there and figure out how to fix things? Why is there no sit down where you could determine the common thread between all of what's happening? And you're right, it was scattered. So it could very simply be a lack of manpower, a lack of training about what to do in specific types of situations. These are things that are preventable, that are never diagnosed after the fact. Why? They're afraid of liability. They don't want to diagnose themselves because it's an admission of guilt. They would rather protect themselves in that way than protect the people that they are, supposed to actually protect, which are the citizens of New York.
This one, Molina Fina 3481. I can't believe this is true. A bus with prisoners broke down 2 days ago in New York City on a highway. You can't make this stuff up.
Honestly, I feel so bad for the driver. That's like the worst possible situation. I swear to God, that's horrible.
But that's the dysfunction of this city. And just so people understand, because what's today? Today's December 2nd. Yeah. The mayor of New York City is still Eric Adams. Yeah. Before we go and start, it's Eric Adams. These are his people that are in charge. This has been going on for 4+ years now. This in particular, this kind of stuff. What they have no answer for this stuff. It's like, no. Oh, the bus breaks down. People are dying. Hey, where's the party at later? Things happen. That's the excuse we're seeing. It's ridiculous. It is. This correction thing. I don't know what's going to happen with Linnell McGinley Liddy.
You got it right again.
Corrections commissioner, lawyer by trade, and has no idea how to run corrections. And all this stems from because you made those correct allegations about Molina. He ran for the hills, and this was all, let's try to make this look good. And now you have this disaster behind it. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. This needs to be fixed. I hope someone in this new administration is watching the show and listens to this, because there's been no talk about corrections. You need a new commissioner. You need a whole new look on how to handle that agency, because it's a mess.
And don't forget receiver. I will say that right now there's no receiver that has been selected. The deadline to apply as a receiver has passed a couple of months ago already at this point, right? And so I don't know, but it's possible that the judge might just be waiting for the new administration to come in. I don't know. But if that's the case, then this administration, it would suit them, in my opinion, to speak with the judge and say, look, I don't know what Eric Adams's administration put forth as their candidate, as their number one guy or gal, but we, the Mamdani administration, wants to reassess the candidates and put our own person forward. Because honestly, I think that Mamdani is going to hopefully support receivership and want to work with the receiver and actually fix this and make this work. Whereas the Adams administration was just completely pushing against it from day one and is just trying to be obstructionist. They're still trying to appeal the decision of receivership, which is crazy. The decision of receivership that Judge Swain made is solid. It's based on solid evidence and a solid court presentation. So there's no way, in my opinion, legally that she would overturn herself in this decision. And so it's very important for the next administration to not only want to work with the receiver, but perhaps have a say in who that receiver is so that they can work well with that person and actually fix these things.
Right. I can't believe that this has gone on for this long. I mean, Lone Silencer said Eric Adams and his cronies are just running the ball to run the clock out. They have no desire to fix anything unless benefits them walking out the door. I agree.
Yeah.
Because, Fox K5P says Lone Silencer gives you a check, so he's agreeing with you. Definitely no. Political clout to mooch off of. Nothing will happen. Hope the black people BLMers remember that. And there was a lot going on with that, with all the riots that were going on. With that in particular, I remember things going on downtown in front of there too. This was like 5 years ago. Special Hagen says Taylor Swain is notoriously slow about everything and she's very political. But to that point Serena just made, there's no way she's overturning herself. That would be
right.
That would never happen. She's not overturning herself. And this was you saw this coming. We foreshadowed this, knowing Eric was very slow about anything with the receivership. He just, everybody wants to kick that can down the road, but eventually the can's in your hands. You got to do something.
Yeah.
You can only kick it down the road for how long, Serena? How many months? How many years? I mean, it's long overdue with Rikers.
Completely agree. I think, look, at this point, there needs to be a decision that's made, and it needs to be the right decision, because the last thing Rikers needs is another failure.
Yeah. So the next thing I was going to discuss before I get to your cases is you heard last week Letitia James and James Comey, their cases were dismissed, but without prejudice, unlike the Eric Adams case, right? So what happened there is that they're saying that the mortgage fraud, everything there, the merits of the case are good. It's just they didn't like that the prosecutor, the way they were installed, meaning they weren't approved by Congress, right? It was Trump just put them in. And now she's also, Letitia James, got hit with a bar complaint on top of it because of all of that in New York State. So that's a twofold question, because, you've worn many hats, including prosecutor and defense attorney. So number one, they're going to retry this case. Apparently going to bring it forward very shortly. They're just going to have a different prosecutor do it with Comey, which I don't know if the statute of limitations run out at that or not. And then Tish James with the mortgage fraud. And my friends did a lot of work with that. Sam Antar and Joe Gilbert. Of course, I say there was a lot going on at Con Sofrito and Letitia James, but no one in the FBI wants to actually do any work, apparently, because they're partying with Kesh Patel, whose book was read by the illustrious mayor of New York City, Eric Adams. So I don't know. You could take that for what it is. And then on the side part of that, we have this part where now there's a bar complaint in regards to Letitia James, who she should have received numerous bar complaints for so many things she did, but she's getting one now in regards to her, conduct as Attorney General with all of this going on. So why don't you give us your take? You're the former prosecutor and now defense attorney, so the floor is yours, counsel.
Thanks, Sal. Thank you. Yeah, everything that prosecutors do, especially in politically charged prosecutions, in my opinion, is discretionary. Like, you could see so many different people doing so many different bad things, even us regular folks, right? And either will or will not be prosecuted just based on who you are or not who you are. So in this scenario with Letitia James and Comey, I think it's all going to come down to that discretion. I really do. I think that there is a way to revive the cases against them if they want to. I also think it's a way, if they've decided not to, for them to bow out gracefully and say, look, we just don't want to go ahead anymore. So I think that we may see a resurgence, but I also think that there's a possibility that they might say, like, I don't know, is this worth it? Obviously, we're going to be fought against very aggressively with this prosecution. Is this worth it? I will say this. If they do decide to pursue charges, which in either case, whichever case, this would apply in any case, if they do decide to take a second bite at that apple, you have to expect that they've done so after a very thorough and, decisive review, meaning they're not going to take a second bite half-assed. If they're going to do this and fight against this, the fact that they had already gotten it dismissed once, and they're going again, it means that they're very serious about the prosecution.
Yeah, because again, the case was not dropped on its merits.
Correct.
Kind of like another case that we remember in a recent past, but that one had 115 million reasons why they did that. Here, the only reasoning is, well, we believe, this is a judge, we believe that the attorney general in this case of Northern Virginia was illegally constituted there because it weren't approved by Congress. But I thought you could have a temporary one every 90 days. I guess, I don't know, that's what they make it an issue about. Mm-hmm. So that means that any other prosecutor could just say, okay, I'll do it. That's right. Basically what this sounds like. So I don't know, I don't know why they would do that. Again, it looks, on its surface, Sarena, it just looks very political. And I don't know, again, political prosecutions, how far do they go? Because again, I told you, if you wanted to, Tish James should be looked at for the Consofrito fiasco that went on over there. There was tons of stuff that goes on there. She's standing there. There's human trafficking. Guy got locked up for it in a federal case for it, which was an old business partner of Jimmy's. And then just the other day, they were in Somos together. So Anthony Miranda and all these. So it's like,
oh my God,
like what? Like, why are we just turning the blinders on one thing, and on the others we're like, okay, let's go full throttle. There she is, the illustrious Attorney General, under fire, by the way, in New York.
The problem with political prosecutions in general is that you have to have the right politician at the top if you want your way to win. That's really just how it is. As soon as we got Eric Adams and Trump's, relationship bonded together, there went that prosecution.
Yeah, unfortunately, 115 million reasons why. So now I get to your cases. I remember 2 times you were on. One of them, of course, was Amber Gutierrez, which is a fellow paisan of mine. And you came on with Michael Osgood, who was the chief of detectives at the time when the entire incident happened with Amber and Harvey Weinstein, who's, I guess people now would like just forgetting this guy even exists. But she had gone to the police department. Also in L.A., where in Los Angeles, Mr. Weinstein was found guilty for this. And in New York State Police Department, we ended up finding out through your complaint how people like Bill Bratton, who was the police commissioner at that time, were involved. His underlings were involved. And at now Chief Osgood, now retired Chief Osgood, could tell you he was facing an enormous amount of pressure to get rid of this. So that case went, I remember when you presented it. Where are we standing with that case in particular right now?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're pretty disappointed at the response, to be honest with you. And we're reevaluating kind of the direction that we want to take with it. Because as you know, Sal, there's no real forum at this very moment for it. It's more of an advocacy type of situation. It's not like it's pending in any courts. And so the audience has to be kind of dragged out and forced to listen. It's tough. And as you know, there's a lot of politics involved behind the scenes, speaking of politics, with Harvey Weinstein and his his posse and his people who he has supporting him. So it's hard, but I always remember, honestly, that justice can be found in a lot of different ways. You and I both know that. And some of the ways that people find justice is by being able to find their voice and being able to present it in the public forum, so that even if you don't get exactly what you want in the courts, because we all know that sometimes you can't get everything you want from the court system, that at the very least somebody gets exposed for what they actually did, and your name is brought back to the heights that it's supposed to be at, rather than tarnished. I mean, I think you and I have done that for ourselves. Even, we felt completely under an unjudicious decision. And sometimes you find justice in the courts. And at least for me, I actually ended up choosing not to sue in my case. And I feel like I got what I needed out of that, because I was able to expose the corruption and hopefully prevent future corruption. So there's always different avenues that you could take, whether it's in the courts or via media, and just educate people about what's going on. So that's where we're at with Ambra's case. We're reevaluating certain things, but for the most part, we just want to make sure that everybody still knows what happened and why.
Yeah, and it was very important. I remember when he came on, I thought it was very powerful for Amber to come forward that way, because it's not easy, victimized, having to go through this numerous times, being flown to LA. And then, you unveiled who was really behind all of that. One of the key figures was the police commissioner at the time, Bill Bratton, who's once again in that, floating around Jessica Tisch, just so people know. So it's like, okay, you have the same power players involved, and the Tisch family, who's also involved with Weinstein. It's just one big circle. And what do you have? You have this poor woman who's victimizing, they act like, so what? It's like, we victimize many people. Who cares? Like, that's the attitude that you see. And I hope the courts are not, I know how they are. Things would be vicious and they're political. So I just hope, you keep us abreast with that.
Thank you.
Also, there was another case. Well, actually a few cases. You represented a bunch of NYPD executives who
That's
then,
right.
I believe you have quite a few of them, and which led to then Tom Donlan, who was the police commissioner, jumping in on that fray with John Scola, who was on recently to unveil everything, which is like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened. So what's going on with the executives you represent? Each one of them having their own case. It's like,
I know. Honestly, it was like a dam opening, the water just flowing through, which is great, because again, this is so much about exposure. It's about justice, and it's about making my clients whole again, but it's also about exposure. So currently, the timing is impeccable, because actually the response to our complaint is due tomorrow. So I know the timing, but that's okay, because it just means you'll have to have me on again. But in the interim, obviously, we're still working hard behind the scenes. We've obviously sent a lot of preservation notices, because we know that there's evidence that exists that will help our case, because everything that my clients are saying is true. And there was a lot that was going on behind closed doors that we are entitled to know about. And we don't want that evidence to mysteriously disappear. So, obviously we've sent those notices out. But yeah, I am very proud to represent the former chiefs that I am representing. They stood for the right things. And listen, we want to make them whole. They were mistreated. They should never have been put in the positions that they were put in. And the only reason that they were was simply because they were trying to do the right thing. They were whistleblowers who were retaliated against. And all of the players that you guys talk about on this show, top to bottom, are involved. All the misfits are involved in this case. So I will be very happy to conduct depositions in this case and take it all the way if we need to, because again, I'm not afraid of trial. I'm not afraid of depositions. I'm not afraid of confronting bad actors. And if the city doesn't want to settle these cases the way that they should, then I will take great pleasure in moving forward as aggressively as possible for all of my clients, and exposing things and making it right for them.
I'm dying to see this. I really want to see, especially, one of them is even, you also have a commissioner. I believe you had Commissioner Wiener in that, right? Rebecca.
No, it's not. It's Amy Litwin, who was.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. Amy Litwin. Wiener came later on. You have Amy Litwin also on top of the Chiefs. And then you had Tom Donlin on the side. And
that's right.
Some of the stuff when you came on wasn't out there publicly. We kept saying, but now promotions, discretionary promotions, EEOs that went through, internal affairs who did absolutely nothing. You had Iglesias running internal affairs. It's like a side group for Jeffrey Madry, who was the chief of the department. Yeah. All of this stuff is going to be out in the open. Is all of these guys got retaliated against.
That's
and
right.
There's Eric Adams right in the middle, always like, so he's just doing this the whole time while he's partying until the break of dawn. That's what I see here. It's like, but to them, the attitude has always been, I'm not paying out of my pocket. Those sucker taxpayers are. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what's going to happen here, because you let this guy run amok for 4 years and, all you kept hearing is let's see, today was the Turkish people around Istanbul of America.
Right.
Irish people around, it's the Dublin of America. Italian people around, it's the Rome of America. Every time, that's all and this guy was laughing and joking and all the way to the bank himself.
I know. You nailed it. That's the problem, is that the accountability is never really there. Oh, yeah, it's never truly there.
Not with this guy, anyway.
Not with him.
And I want to see what happens now, because January 1st, this guy's gone. Mamdani's inheriting quite a mess, even though it is a 3-car Mamdani, but personally, he's still going to have to make decisions on, is he going to represent Tim Pearson? Is the city going to keep representing that guy? I don't know.
Oh, my God.
There's issues with that. There's a secret grand jury going on down there in Manhattan right now involving Madry and Pearson, allegedly. It's all over the place. There's witnesses. So there's a lot to still occur. But I think there's going to finally be some answers, and I'm sure the next few months we're going to hear about all kinds of things that Adams and company were doing. So I do want to have you back to discuss what happens tomorrow. We need to hear about all of it. I want to hear the response, all of this stuff, because we got to hear what the city is saying about all these allegations, because they haven't said anything yet, even with Tom Donlin. So I want to know how they're going to answer this, because it's going to be interesting, especially with a criminal case going on at the same time downtown.
That's right. Well, you'll have to tune in to Sal's show again, so you can get the scoop.
I will. We will be waiting. Sarena, thanks for coming on as usual. Where can people follow you, and also your great law firm? If people don't know, Sarena does civil and criminal. So if you've been accused of something and want to indict you, Sarena is your woman to hire. Trust me.
Thank you so much, Sal. Yeah, you can find me on all social media. I'm on X, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. Instagram is Sarena T, SarenaTee. But everywhere else, you could just kind of type in my name, Sarena Townsend. And of course, my law firm is Townsend Law, PLLC. And you can find that at www.townsendlawnyc.com. And you can basically contact me through the website or really anywhere else.
There you go, and I highly recommend it. Especially look at who she's representing and what she's doing and the dent that she's making. Because this isn't easy, folks. Challenging the system is not easy. I'm doing it myself. It's not easy, and it's 6,000 things they put in front of you. So I give you all the credit in the world for that. And again, if you are in trouble for some nonsense, some minor infraction, they indicted you, whatever, Sarena is excellent in defending you with that also, because she does get acquittals. I see it on TikTok. She shows you the acquittals. So she does have quite a few acquittals under her belt. I just want to put out this. So thanks again, Sarena. And
thank you so much.
Say hello to your husband. If people don't know, I know a husband also who's a fine attorney on his own, who also worked with me when I was a cop on J Street. And we unfortunately had to stare at Eric Adams' office across the street. It was not a fun time in that respect. But it's always fun having you, Sarena, and have a great rest of your week. And we'll be talking tomorrow about what happens with these cases.
For sure. Thank you so much, Sal. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sarena. There you have it, folks. Sarena, who again, she's probably the most requested person on the show. People love seeing and hearing from her. And like I said, that's going to be interesting to hear how the city responds to those cases, because they haven't said anything yet. Because John's case with Tom Donlan, remember, they're trying to fight that, but eventually they have to answer it. And when they answer it, you see the direction of how they're going to go. And I know they always try to follow that. Oh, we got to dismiss the case. So that's all they do. They want to waste time. I could tell you, not show discovery, but I want to know about the discovery. In this case, it's very important. It's very important. So now, without any further ado, let's have the producer's take. Let's bring on the producer, Jack, there. I know you heard a lot there with the police department. I mean, they're in shambles, man.
Yeah, they are in shambles, but we also have another developing story in Capitol Hill where Elise Stefanik may be the next person. It's almost like Capitol Hill nowadays is like Love Island. You know how people enter the villa and then they're kicked out of it? It feels like it's the same concept, right? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene was the hottest chick who walked into the Love Island villa. Now she's ostracized. Seems like the same thing is about to happen to gubernatorial candidate in New York State on the Republican side of the aisle, Elise Stefanik, who's now at odds with Speaker Mike Johnson over a provision that he wants to put into he wants to exclude from one of his bills, rather. So Stefanik is trying to put a provision in the NDAA bill that would force the FBI to notify Congress if someone who's running for public office is being investigated. And now Stefanik has resorted to very defamatory rhetoric about people on Capitol Hill, saying that those who are siding against her are against Trump Republicans, and she's trying to create this battle between the two sides. And it's sad because you would think Stefanik learned a thing or two from her fellow Republican Democratic mayoral candidate, Andrew Cuomo, who was talking badly about Zohran Mamdani for months, fear-mongering, the world was going to end, New York City was going to go into a demise if Mamdani was elected mayor. He's still saying he lost the race because of Curtis Sliwa. It was actually close because of Sliwa, because all of Sliwa's supporters would have voted for Mamdani. But anyway, the point here is she's repeating the same bad strategy that Cuomo deployed just about a couple weeks ago now, and it's not working. And it looks like she and Marjorie Taylor Greene are going to be hanging out, doing a podcast together soon, bad-mouthing Trump and talking about the fall of the regime, and more importantly, advocating for a flipping of the House in 2026.
I think it's happening either way. The Republicans, as much as we can say about Trump, whatever he's doing, the Republicans have done nothing themselves. They earned being thrown out of the majority in both houses. They actually, because they've not done anything. The big, beautiful bill is the only thing they passed. Everything else they promised has been, I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. I can't find one. The way I can't find a significant achievement underneath the soccer mom Jessica Tisch's belt as far as her term as NYPD police commissioner, show me the significant achievement of the Republican Party in both chambers of the House and Senate. Give me one significant achievement that they have done in this term since they got elected back in full power. I can't find it. Show me.
Yeah, it's funny how like the pendulum of hatred is just swaying back and forth. A couple years ago, everyone was mad with Biden, so we needed a new president. We get Trump, and then there's a lot of fighting amongst Republicans, and then people are saying we need a Democratic president, yet their nominee for the 2024 presidential election didn't win a single primary, didn't state a single thing she would do to improve the country, and is now going around the country on a book tour telling people they need to read her book to learn about what actually happened. So it's not like either party is doing a particularly good job pitching and selling themselves right now. And it speaks to the point about the uniparty of elites controlling everything with the WWE level theatrics going on in the ground floor to distract us from the fact that we're now funding additional wars. We need to give money to Ukraine. We have to help out Saudi Arabia. And the justification for this is we're political allies. So even though we're going to be paying higher taxes now and our cost of living is going to be going up because of the tariffs, we're supposed to just sit around and say to ourselves, okay, inflation is at an all-time high. We have less disposable income than we had 2 years ago, but now we're going to be spending more money in basic costs because you guys tell us that you need it. That doesn't sit right with a lot of American people who are seeing their bills skyrocketing every single month.
I can tell you, they're skyrocketing here too in Florida, just so people know. It's nothing is easy. You know, King Gerbo said at least voted to send money to Ukraine. We don't forget. That's not going to be good. 92 Charlie said, we have the House, Senate, and the presidency, and the Republicans are fighting. Snake Plissken said she's not going to win anyway. And I can tell you she's not. She's not after what you saw the other day with Mamdani and Trump. They're not. And, of course, he's 115 million reasons why he let Eric Adams off just paid off. So I also would expect that at a certain point you might see his name return to the woman rink under Mamdani. Remember, he's got 4 years. It doesn't matter how it's done, but it you know, look, that's how things work. Politics is a dirty business. Like I've been saying, lone silencer. Both parties that run the country like WCW in 2000, and you wrestling fans know that year was the drizzling shits as their product was garbage. But they did bring back the New World Order in that year, 99 into 2000, and then Bret Hart had a concussion. That was the end of his career, and Scott Hall got drunk. They had to cut him. And then Jeff Jarrett was fighting with Kevin Nash, and then the whole thing was broken up. So, but it was you look back 2000 and you took 2025 now, you might say that those storylines in 2000 might have been better than the ones now. So I don't know. Just pointing that one out. But this thing is not looking good with Stefanik. I think it was what happened with Mamdani showing up at the White House that was like the end of her chance of being governor. And I think it's just going to get worse at this point. I think you're going to see the gap grow in the polls. So Hochul's going to win. Sorry, New York.
It's sad that the Republicans for gubernatorial candidates, that's what we're talking about, have cannibalized each other and cannibalized the party. On one side of the aisle, you have Elise Stefanik spewing hateful rhetoric. She still hasn't told me one single thing she would do differently as governor, aside from the fact that Mamdani is a commie, Hochul's contributing to an affordability issue, blah, 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 blah. What has she done in Congress to help either of those things? And what is she going to do as governor? So she's not doing herself any favors on the campaign trail. And then we have Bruce Blakeman, who's already facing an uphill battle because he's a little bit older, 70 years old at this point in time. Overwhelming amount of his support is in Nassau County. But then he starts talking about how he wants to install more cameras in Nassau County because Mamdani became mayor, as if we're stupid and don't realize they're trying to implement another backdoor tax because they can't afford anything in Long Island. So we're going to get speed cameras, traffic meters, all these crazy things that are going to end up increasing our cost of living. Like, we're trying to sit here and advocate for Republicans, yet on a national level, it feels like Trump and all of the members of Congress are going to end up endorsing Mamdani and Kathy Hochul and supporting Democrats, which is really a deviation from what we've seen in the past. But you understand why it's happening right now, because Trump is in this thing for a good time, not a long time. He sees his expiration date in 2028, and he realizes that he needs to help himself and help his businesses. So he's going to do whatever he possibly needs to do to accomplish that end goal, even if it means becoming friends with Mamdani and creating a sad narrative for Republicans who wanted to use Mamdani as a piñata for the next couple of months until the midterms.
Yeah, King Gerbo said all the people in New York, and we get stuck with Cuomo, hand me down, system is rigged. I agree. The system it seems to be rigged. But at the same time, Stefanik can't I don't think Stefanik's going to have a chance. Sorry. After what you saw. But again, I think there's this new thing now about going to war at Venezuela. That doesn't, I don't know. I thought we weren't going to go to war. So that's a whole new thing. Everything is a mess. It's like upside down. It really doesn't matter who's in charge. It's just, that's the way it works, Jack, what's on tap with the 10-Foot Tavern tonight? Because I saw a couple of advertisements for it.
Yeah, we actually have a really, really exciting special edition of the 10-4 Tavern tonight. Alongside Tom Joyce, sitting in for the fantastic Peter Forcelli, will be Deputy Chief Michael Marino. And if you didn't get a chance to check out the Finest Unfiltered morning show, he did a great job with John and Eric a couple months back on a Friday weekly roundtable. And they'll be joined by Lieutenant John Cornicello, a retired Brooklyn homicide lieutenant, also worked with the New York City Transit Police before the merger. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of different personalities in the room. You have two lieutenants and the deputy chief. I'm interested to see what that dynamic looks like, and it's going to be a really good show. So be sure to tune in live at 19:05 wherever you find the Finest Unfiltered shows, X, YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and of course, join in the comments section as well.
Yeah, and tomorrow, on executive perspective, Ron and Rob are going to be discussing what I opened the show with, the entire incident at the synagogue, the internal affairs investigation. They'll be breaking that down. I gave you a little bit of a preview and with everything that went on with that. So tune in to that tomorrow at 17:05, which is 5:05 Eastern. And before I go, Highlight is now in the playoffs, and unfortunately, the Chargers didn't make it. As you know, I would have been telling you about it, but it was not a good season. So I believe the Warriors, the Renegades, the Cyclones, and there it is: the Cyclones, the Devils, the Fireballs, and the Warriors all made it in. So the Renegades, the defending champions, are out. Those are the 4 teams that made it to the playoffs. So this week is the first games at all the semifinals, and then the following Friday will be the finals. And this is the last games that will be played at Magic City Fronton in Miami. Obviously, they're moving to the new place. What it is, the old place, but the new place, it's another location in Miami. They'll probably announce it to everyone soon officially, but that's kind of what happened. So there you have it. Why I haven't said anything on Highlight is it's the Chargers had a bad year, 2 years in a row after winning the championship themselves. So, and it's funny, the Renegades won and they were out. By the way, last night the Giants got their ass handed to them by the Patriots. But watching that game, the Patriots are a much better team, and I like the Patriots. But there were a couple of dirty hits on the field, head to head. They slammed Jackson Dart, the quarterback, out. They were saying that's not a penalty. The guy should be ejected and thrown out of the league for that. That's how you're gonna do the games, guys, in the NFL. So be it. But that was horrifically refereed. A lot of players. There should have been all kinds of flags on the play and people getting ejected. You don't hit a quarterback in the head, and you certainly. I mean, this is a brutal hit on Jackson Dart. He's out of bounds. He's not on the field. You watch this?
I don't know. It looks like he's still in bounds here to me, Sal, going for the first down. And this is where Giants fans are starting to get concerned, because if Dart is always going to be – look, I mean, he's still in bounds here. He's still in bounds. This is where you get out of bounds. This is where you make a beeline to the boundary and get out. You don't invite contact from a 300-pound linebacker. Yes, you shouldn't be hitting the quarterback that hard, and it's not the norm of the game of football anymore, especially when quarterback contracts are becoming higher and higher and higher by the year. But at the same time, I mean, I don't really see anything tactically illegal about this hit. Dart just needs to be a whole lot more careful. He seems to be okay. Luckily, his head wasn't impacted on the play. He is coming back from a concussion still. But listen, if you're going to be the franchise quarterback for this team for the next 10 or 15 years, you can't keep inviting contact from bigger and stronger players. It's not going to work in the NFL. And he keeps saying after the game, oh, you guys didn't keep up with my career at Ole Miss and high school. This is always the tough-nosed, hard-nosed guy that I've been. If you want to keep playing like this, Jackson, you're not going to be in the league for very much longer.
Yeah, but there was other things. There was a helmet-to-helmet hit. It was a vicious hit on a special teams play, and there was a fumble, and they gave it to the Patriots. You hit the guy helmet to helmet. The guy got a concussion. He was gone off the field. I don't think he ever came back. Special teams player on the Giants. And I'm like, what am I watching it? And then for the Patriots, guys, you were going to win this game regardless. There's no reason to try to put people in a hospital because all it shows is your character. And when you're playing a team that's on your level, if not better, they're going to return the favor to you. So I don't know why they were doing that. And Mike Vrabel, who's he's a Patriot. I don't know the guy to coach teams like this, but that was like, I don't know what I was watching. I was watching Monday Night Raw and Monday Night Football with the same program where it's all WWE like entertainment, except the people that were going to hospital were in the NFL game, not the wrestling matches. So that was quite. I don't know. That's what I have to say about that game. That was very brutal. So, so again, tonight, tune in at 19:05 with the 10-Foot Tavern. Tomorrow, 8:05 live in the morning, you'll have John and Eric on and the Finest Unfiltered. And then at 17:05, 5:05, Executive Perspective, check out Ron and Rob. Will break down the entire synagogue incident from the internal affairs side of the investigation, which I'm telling you, it's a witch hunt. They're going to try to pin this on the CO, the commanding officer, when there's a whole operational staff on an event that has nothing to do with the CO. They're just playing a small role in it. And there's other people that know a lot more what's going on. But so they'll break that down, and I'll be back on Thursday. So hope everybody has a good rest of your day. If you can, please like, share, and subscribe. Like and press the Rumble button on Rumble. And if you're on X, like and share this out to all your friends, especially those in that low information circle. Check out myfreedomcart.com/Sal Greco Show. Shop with people that are patriots and pro law enforcement. And also, we're going to have a word from Free Spoke to end the show. So thank you all. Thank you all in the comments, all the fans, all the haters. And I'll see you on Thursday. And I'm signing off from South Florida, which is a sunny place for shitty people. Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking or your data being taken from you. Porn-free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. Free Spoke.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it was stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall. She reported in that book. And it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a Black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.